Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing my very first Chromatic Cube draft. Chromatic Cube, for those who don't know, is the latest cube draft format on Magic Arena starting today. That is a cube focused around really big, splashy, multicolored, powerful cards. So this cube has a lot more multicolored stuff than normal, a lot of 5-color cards in here even. So there are going to be a lot more just 5-color good stuff decks in here than usual, or just multicolored decks in general. They've also added a decent bit of mana fixing as well to go alongside it with cards like Chromatic Lantern, of course, but also some other multicolored mana rocks. There's lots of great non-basic lands for splashing things in. And yeah, it's a pretty crazy cube in general. If you want to see the whole card pool, all you got to do is open up Arena and click View Card Pool in the Chromatic Cube draft event itself. But without any further ado, let's just hop into this draft format and see how it goes. It's definitely going to be a pretty insane one. I have taken a quick peek at the cards inside the cube, and there are some massive, massive bombs just all over the place. And just plenty of absolutely insane cards that should be really fun to draft around. So I do expect that in the general metagame in this format, you're going to be playing against tons and tons of multicolored decks, obviously, but probably a lot of just 5-color good stuff in general. So yeah, let's see how things go here. So in our opening pack, what do we have? Actually, not the most multicolored pack in general. I think there's a few options that I'd be very excited to first pick in this kind of cube. Don't really love first picking any of these multicolored cards. They just don't seem that immensely impactful for their costs. Like Primeval's Glorious Rebirth, if you draft a boatload of legendaries, could be pretty good, but you have to have a legendary on board as well. So I always find that hard to cast, but these other two cards just seem like good like value plays on curve. My favorite 3 cards in here, however, are all monocolored. There's Hero of Precinct 1, which in a cube with a ton of multicolored spells is going to be spitting out a lot of human tokens for a pretty cheap cost, so that's pretty interesting. There's Oracle of Moldiah, which is an absolutely absurd draw engine by allowing you to play lands from the top of your library and play 2 lands a turn instead of just 1. So anytime you're hitting just a flood of lands, you can get them all into the board really quick. So it's great ramp and card draw. And there's also Robber of the Rich, which is probably a pretty fantastic card in this cube in general. Cards that can steal things from your opponent's library get better the more explosive their plays are, and this cube has some really explosive plays, plus the fact that this card is really aggressive and not a lot of people are going to be playing a lot of cheap cards because of how big and splashy the cards are. I think Robber of the Rich is a perfectly fine first pick there, as is Kaya in the top row, but not a super huge fan of Planeswalkers in general, although Kaya is a pretty strong one, being able to exile something when she comes into play. So here we have just slammed down an Oracle of Moldiah. I think green is quite likely to be one of the strongest colors in the cube, and Oracle of Moldiah is always a fantastic card. So we'll see what we have in pack 2. We have Guardian Project here, which does go with Oracle of Moldiah just by being a green card. This lets us draw a card whenever we're playing a creature, because in cube draft you're only going to get 1 copy of everything in the cube. I failed to mention it earlier, but if anyone asks, you do not get to keep any of the cards you draft in the cube. It is entirely for the fun drafting experience and the gold rewards you can get. There's a Nikia of the Old Ways for Gruul that'll double our mana up. Kiora, if we're playing a lot of big creatures, will draw us a lot of cards. Also untaps our lands to speed up our mana a bit. There's like Faith's Fetters, probably good to have a decent amount of removal. Again, tons of things we could pick here. Skyclave Relic for fixing. Yeah, Finale of Glory is quite powerful too. I kind of want to just slam down a Faith's Fetters, to be honest. When I was looking through this cube, I didn't see a ton of great interaction. It seems like they've focused really heavily on just throwing in a ton of just bombastic build-arounds. Like if you look at this pack in general, it's just a ton of big explosive plays in every color. Not a lot of interaction, not a lot of stuff to try to remove your opponent's threats. So I think that the cards like Faith's Fetters are probably pretty decent to take somewhat highly, just because there aren't a whole ton of them. I do like Verdurous Gearhulk quite a bit. 5 mana for a 4/4 trample. And when it comes to play, put 4 +1/+1 counters on whatever creatures you want. So by itself, 5 mana for an 8/8 trample, and with other creatures you spread that out how you would like. There's Terramorphic Expanse and Shimmerdrift Veil. They accomplish basically the same task. This one land will just come into play tapped and be whatever color you need it to be. So both of these are probably pretty great in a cube that is so many colors. I do like Callous Dismissal for just slowing opponents down, but I don't really want to take a third color of cards unless we're taking a great card right now. Then we have like Rootbound Crag for just like green-red fixing. If I was going to take mana fixing, I'd take the Evolving Wilds or Shimmerdrift Veil there. So far we're just in Selesnya, but we can definitely add some more colors here as things progress. So we do have Captain Sisay, which could be fun to build around. If you have a lot of legendary cards in your deck, then she just gives you multiple tutor effects, which is pretty fantastic. If we have just a lot of like creatures and planeswalkers with varying types of abilities, that's when she'll be at her best. Yeah, kind of want to try drafting around her, and she's the other thing that I was talking about here. It's not just the fact that they've added more multicolored stuff in this cube in general. They've also just focused this cube somewhat in a Tinkerer's Cube kind of fashion, where they've added more kind of bomby effects and removed the amount of good like removal and interaction in general. So there are more like fun random things to build around, like a Freet Flame Painter. I don't think this was in the regular Arena Cube, but it's in this time around. So we're taking Captain Sisay there, and we're going to try to take a lot of legendary cards. All right, well here I think I want to just slam down my first heavily multicolored card. Very interested in trying to play Niv-Mizzet Reborn, 5 mana for a 6/6 flyer. When Niv-Mizzet enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each color pair, choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them, and put the rest on bottom. So essentially you play this, look at the top 10, you get to grab one Selesnya card, one Simic card, one Rakdos card, and so on. So like one green-red, one white-blue, one black-white, all of that. So Niv-Mizzet can be really fun if you can get the mana base to support them, and hopefully we can here. We're going to have to definitely start taking some actual mana fixing and dual lands and stuff now if we do want to cast this Niv-Mizzet, but we were on just green-white beforehand, so mana fixing wasn't something that I was prioritizing before we scooped this up. So that is going to change how this draft progresses at this point, I think. So we have High Sentinels of Erishin. Never played with this card in Cube before, but this looks like a pretty fun card. And that would be good for just like the green-white deck. And then there's like Find and Finality or Salumgar's Command for like the 5-color deck, because both of these are dual-colored cards, so we'll be able to draw them off the Niv-Mizzet. Or I suppose there's like Isolated Chapel just for a mana fixer, but I prefer ones with green in them. Yeah, I'm going to go pretty heavy on Niv-Mizzet here. We're just going to scoop up a Find and Finality. And let's see what we've got here. Well, I really, really like Fauna Shaman, but there's also Cast Out, another interactive piece of removal here. 4 mana instant speed, exile non-land permanent, an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. It's a really hard choice. Fauna Shaman's like one of my favorite creatures in the history of the game, just because it's a really fun effect, being able to turn any creature that you draw into the perfect creature for the exact scenario you have. Say you finally made it to Niv-Mizzet mana, well, if you top deck like an Oracle or Captain Sisay, just bam, just discard it and grab that Niv-Mizzet, slam it down, have a fun time that way, and so on and so forth. If you don't have the Niv-Mizzet mana, then discard the Niv-Mizzet and grab something you can actually cast. So Fauna Shaman, I think I will end up taking there, but it was a really close pick between the Fauna Shaman and the Faith's Fetters. I suppose we're not really married to white here. I think our most heavy color is green, and it's likely to stay that way. I do really like these Thriving Lands. I feel like these are going to be pretty good in this cube, because these are dual lands that the secondary color is whatever color you need. So green and then whatever we need. So green-white or green-black, all of that. But Cavalier of Thorns is also just an exceptional card that I played in Standard for a little while, so I like this card a lot. 5 mana for 5/6. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Put a land from them onto the battlefield and throw the rest in the graveyard. And when it dies, you can exile it to return a card from your graveyard to the top of your library, so really good card there. And wow, we still see that Robber of the Rich in this pack, as well as the Hero of Precinct 1, some of the good aggressive cards the cube has to offer. Arnie as well. Both Robber and Arnie means that red aggro is probably pretty open here. It's not the kind of strategy a ton of people will be prepared for, so I'm kind of interested in just scooping a Robber of the Rich and maybe going Gruul here. We're definitely green. I think that's the only guarantee here. However, now it is starting to look like this Niv Mizzet is getting pretty unlikely to get cast, because I am getting pulled aside by just powerful cards in our already established colors. I'm kind of happy to take Direfleet Daredevil here, since we are going to see that Robber of the Rich wheel all the way around. We might be able to do, or just make good use of more aggressive red creatures here. Yeah, but we have some cards to draw off of Kiora. Let's actually scoop up the Kiora. Kiora will work even if we don't have blue in the deck. We can just pretend this is 2 and a green for this Planeswalker, and even if that's the case, we've got some stuff to combo with her. Cavalier will draw a card, Verta's Gearhulk will draw a card, and she'll ramp us into both of those cards, play her turn 3, play our 4th land the next turn, and then untap it to have 5 mana the turn after that. Farfinder, Efreet Flame Painter, Watery Grave. Don't love the Flame Painter. I don't think we'll have a ton of instants and sorceries, even if we go the green-red route. So Watery Grave or Farfinder, I think, are my options. And I don't know, Farfinder seems a little bit overcosted in terms of cube power level. It was definitely really good in Ikoria draft, but I'm just not so certain about it for cube. I don't really like the Rixmati Reveler if we aren't playing Rakdos, if we're just in red. We get a last pick, Fiery Emancipation here. 6-mana enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple damage instead. Another one of the big splashy monocolored cards that was not in the cube previously, but it is in the Chromatic Cube. So another big indicator of how the cube is meant to be played and drafted. So now what do we want? I like the Vizier of the Menagerie, somewhat similar to Oracle Moldiah in that it lets us cast cards off the top of our library. However, it is different in that this one lets us cast creatures from the top, and it lets us spend mana as though we're mana of any type to cast creature spells. So as long as we have Vizier out, we can cast Niv Mizzet pretty easily. Although there's also Chromatic Lantern, which is kind of the namesake card of the cube, probably one of the best cards in the whole cube, making all of your lands tap for a mana of any color, just perfectly mana fixing you for whatever your deck's doing. That being said, I'm still kind of interested in just being 2 colors here, green-red if we can, where I wouldn't want the Chromatic Lantern. But then there's also Kinnan, which makes all our mana rocks like Chromatic Lantern incredible and potentially bombs things out. And then there's Genesis Ultimatum for plopping a bunch of things out. I think I'm just going to take the Vizier of the Menagerie there. I am kind of going back and forth a little bit on whether I want to do a big explosive thing or just a good Gruul deck, but I want to take a quick peek on what we have going for us for just a good Gruul deck, and I think we're doing pretty all right here. For just a nice, consistent Gruul deck that could come out pretty quick here. Yeah, this looks pretty solid here. We don't have a ton of cards for it, so we will need to scoop up some more stuff. But so far, that's looking viable for us. We have Explore or Scuttlemutt for that. Mana fixing. Explore, of course, is just ramp, but the Scuttlemutt for the mana fixing. Yeah, I don't love this pack a ton for us, or just in general. I think Finale of Eternity is probably the strongest card in the pack, being able to be 3 removal spells in 1, and if you have 1,000,000 mana, it does some crazy things. I think I'll just take a Scuttlemutt here. Can run that in anything. Ooh, and now we got a big red bomb creature, the Cavalier of Flame. 5 mana for a 6/5, discard any number of cards, draw that many cards, and deals damage to each opponent and planeswalker they control, where X is the number of lands in your graveyard, so if you discard a bunch of lands to it, you do a bunch of damage. This can also give your whole field +1/+0 in haste for only 2 mana, and you can dump your mana into that over and over again. Cavalier of Flame seems pretty great here. Happy to take that. All right, we're seeing some great green and red cards again, so that's looking pretty open. We have Omnath, Locus of Creation, though. A 4-mana card here. Probably not going there, but it is an incredibly powerful card, as you can tell by the fact that it's banned in almost everything. Just gives you a ton of value. Replaces itself the second you play it by drawing a card, and then does crazy things on the landfall triggers. I think I'm just taking Jade Light Ranger here, though. Just go with a classic green-red monsters strategy with some great value plays. Lotus Cobra. Lotus Cobra lets us be green-red and still like try to cast cards like Niv Mizzet every now and then if we scoop them up in the draft. So I'd like that idea a lot. It also just ramps us into our big Cavaliers, which is good. Like, we can play Lotus Cobra turn 2, and then on turn 3, we'll have 4 mana. On turn 4, we'll have 5 mana if we landfall on those turns. So Lotus Cobra seems pretty great for multiple reasons. Now we have Dwarven Hammer. I'm not exactly sure what Dwarven Hammer is doing in this cube. I really loved it in Call Time, but it doesn't seem that impactful for a cube format. So Primal Might. Actually, Myriad Construct is probably going to be absolutely massive in certain matchups in this format. 4 mana for a 4/4, which is fine, but if you kick it, it gets a +1/+1 counter for each non-basic land your opponent controls. So if your opponent is on 5 color, which I expect probably like half the field is going to be, then this comes in with like 6 or 7 +1/+1 counters. Yeah, we'll try out the Myriad Construct here, and bam, that's pretty perfect. Domri, Anarch of Bolas. Good for Gruul aggro, so seems great here. Dryad Greenseeker is a pretty great value card, as is Karuga, so these are both options as well. But Domri's kind of exactly what the doctor ordered for this deck. Now we have Urabrask the Hidden, another new card I've just not played with at all because it came in a historic anthology. 5 mana for a 4/4 haste. Well, it gives your whole field haste, and all of your opponent's creatures come to play tapped. Yeah, that seems like a pretty good card to have late game in aggressive decks, because all of a sudden, even if your opponent tries to play a big old blocker, it just comes in tapped, so you get another swing in before it can block. Fires of Invention is probably really good in this cube, though, because you don't have to worry about the colors of mana in your cards for Fires of Invention. So, nothing in Gruul here. Kinnan did wheel all the way around, which is interesting. We only have Scuttlemutts to get extra mana with Kinnan with, but we do have a River Guide pathway, so we've got like a blue-red splash, and Kinnan's 7 mana ability, you can just dump creatures out if you're lucky, so I think Kinnan is a very good card, and we'll scoop them up there. Now, just to seize the spoils, I suppose. What does this Planeswalker do? Very equipment themed. I guess that might be why Dwarven Hammer's in here. They might have tried to do like an equipment theme. Swiftblade Vindicator as well. Yeah, it's probably what they gave Boros. They were just like, alright, Boros, you can have an equipment theme. Don't know how well that'll pan out, though. Ooh, give me that Crackle with Power. 5 mana for 5 damage to any target, or let's see. It's so hard to do the math on this card with triple X. So it'd be 8 mana for 10 damage to 2 targets, right? Yeah, and then after 8, it would be 11 for 15 damage to 3 targets, and so on. Yeah, if you get up to that mana, it's going to be absurd. I'm going to take a Captivating Crew. Maybe we're supposed to take the Temple there, but I think I'm just doing 2 color. So I'm not sure I even need a single dual land in here, which is incredibly not in flavor with the Chromatic Cube. But these colors are pretty open. I'm getting some super solid cards in them. So I think it's just where I'm going. Well, we have another Phyrexian Praetor to go alongside our Urabrask if we want. However, we don't really have any +1/+1 counters on stuff. This is just going to be a big 6/6 trample haste to be at the top end of our curve. Don't think that's super necessary here. We've got a lot of 5 drops. Cavalier, Urabrask, Cavalier, Gearhulk, Crackle with Power, all of that at 5 mana. kind of just bombing things out. I think we'll go for a Scavenging Ooze here. I want to get more early game creatures if I'm trying to aggro out the slower multicolored grindy decks. And Scavenging Ooze gives us a creature we can dump out on turn 2 that also just has a really good ability throughout the game. Exiling cards from graveyards, getting bigger and gaining life. Scavenging Ooze is just a pretty fantastic card. There's also Voracious Hydra, which would also be pretty good for this deck, probably. And then, like, Champion of Ronus, I think, would generally be a really exciting card in this cube. However, not really in this deck. Champion of Ronus is a 4-mana 3/3. When you attack with it, you can exert it. If you do, you can just put any creature in your hand into play just for free. So that is obviously hilarious with, like, a big 5-color card like Niv-Mizzet or something that's hard to cast. But at 4 mana, we're already almost at the top of our curve in this deck, so don't think the Champion of Ronus is doing much here. So we have, I guess, Zephyr Boots to give our creatures flying. We have Gadrick, but this can't attack unless there's a bunch of artifacts on the field. For that, we need a bunch of creatures to die to get a bunch of treasures. Which seems like a lot of hoops to jump through for an aggressive deck. Plane-wide Celebration, again, seems pretty slow. Maybe just like a Fiend Artisan, costs double green to cast it, so a little hard to cast, but it will eventually start doing some stuff. We could try Sarkhan too, but we don't have any dragons yet. I don't know. We're not taking anything fantastic out of that pack, so I'll try out the Sarkhan thing. We'll see if we can get some dragons in here so we can get that mana for the dragons, but I guess even without it, we could just plus Sarkhan for a while and maybe get to the -7 ability. All right, this pack looks a lot better. We have Fight with Fire, which is going to be a 3-mana removal spell or a 9-mana just gigantic fireball to do 10 damage to our opponent. Wildborn Preserver gives us another 2-mana creature, as does Magna. Both of these are pretty good. The Wildborn Preserver is going to get bigger throughout the game anytime we have extra mana to dump into it. The Magna is going to give us treasure tokens to help us ramp into our other cards. I think I'm taking one of these 2 drops. I think they're both quite good. I'm going to go with Wildborn Preserver here. And now Dragonsguard Elite or Beast Whisperer. We don't have a lot to work with Dragonsguard Elite, do we? We have 0 instants and 2 sorceries, so we are not getting Magecraft often. So I think I'll be taking a Beast Whisperer here so we can draw cards as we're playing creatures. Treasure Map, another card that's probably pretty good in this cube, as you do get those treasure tokens out of it eventually. And it scries for a while, which is nice, but again, for our deck, we're playing one of the more or one of the least multicolor decks that you're going to see in this cube, so we don't really have that much to gain with treasures. Spitflame, I guess, is 3 mana for an instant that does 4 damage to a creature. So 3 mana instant speed removal. Probably better than Sarkhan's Unsealing for us. I guess we do have a decent amount of 4 power creatures. Not really. We have like 4, so we're not triggering Sarkhan's Unsealing that much. Sarkhan's Unsealing, you want a lot of cards to trigger it, or you want a couple that can trigger the 7 power thing that just wipes the whole board, and we don't really have that. So here I'm pretty happy to take a Shatter Skull Smashing. Replaces one of our lands with a big fireball style effect. It only shoots creatures, not players, but 2 removal spells in 1 card is pretty powerful. Star of Extinction. Don't think I'll be trying to blow up all of my creatures here. So I'm kind of going to avoid that. We can just take a Mask of Immolation here, I guess, but I don't know if we'll play it. We do get to make some cuts at the end of this. Pretty happy to take an Inscription of Abundance. I am taking it over a literal fireball effect, Electro Dominance. X mana for X damage to any target. You also get to cast something in your hand for free. But Inscription of Abundance is just really great in decks with a lot of creatures because it works as a removal spell that also buffs one of your creatures permanently and gains you some life. So it's pretty nice all around. Another of these weird equipments that seems kind of weak in comparison to the rest of the stuff in the cube, but I guess it's the only thing we'd really play here. I'm just going to throw that in the sideboard. Zephyr Boots. Don't know if the boots are going to be necessary, but probably not playing Gadrick, probably not playing Fiend Artisan. I think it's between Zephyr Boots and Fiend Artisan here. Maybe try out the boots. We do wheel Magda, pretty happy about that. Gives us a 2-power creature on turn 2 to start bashing in with, and getting treasure tokens to ramp into our more expensive cards more quickly. And Obosh would be fine in here as well. We can cast that off just at double red and 3, and then we are dealing extra damage on all of our odd cards, so our 5-mana cards and our 3-mana cards, of which we have quite a bit of. We do wheel the Sarkhan's Unsealing if we want to play around with that, but I don't think it's likely here. Alright. What? Why are we... Oh, for Kinnan. Get out of here, Kinnan. Gotta get those blue sources out of here. We will throw a Shimmerdrift Veil in here, though. We do have some Cavaliers, which are going to be pretty difficult to cast consistently, so I like just having that one little mana fixing card. That seems fine to me, where it can be green or red mana. It does come into play tapped, which is a bit of a bummer, but still worth it overall, I think. Okay. I'm going to turn my Parallax card styles off. I'm just not that into them. I do like the non-moving card styles, though, like the one on Scavenging Ooze. Alright, so I don't really like the equipment much in here. We've got a lot going on at 5 mana, and I think Dwarven Hammer is going to be like the weakest 5-mana card here. Again, it's great in the call time draft format, but when you compare it to all of the cards available in Cube, just seems a bit slow. Sarkhan doesn't really do anything for us. We just draw a discard off Sarkhan. We don't have any dragons for him. So Sarkhan would be disappointed if we let him tag along anyway. One more card to cut if we cut all of these. Probably one of the 4 or 5 drops here. I kind of want to go for one of the 4-mana cards, because we have Kiora, Domri, and Scuttlemutt. All of those we get out on turn 3, and they give us an extra mana, which means that if we have any of these 3 cards, then we'll go from 3 mana to 5 mana the next turn, if we still play a land every turn. So we can kind of skip over the 4 drops with these 3 cards. So our curve's going to be a little weird here, but for that reason, plus Obosh's effect wanting us to have as many odd cards as possible, I'm going to cut one of these 4-mana even cards, I think. And maybe the Captivating Crew, although there are going to be some really big creatures to steal. Myriad Construct's going to be so good against the 5-color decks, just going to be so massive. But I guess we have to treat that card as more like a 7-mana card, in which case it's kind of our only more than 5-mana card in here. I think I'm fine with that. Beast Whisperer might be a bit slow, but we do want some value engines. I suppose we have Oracle, Moldiah, and Vizier of the Menagerie potentially filling that hole, as well as Kiora drawing cards. Doing pretty alright on value. Yeah, I'll cut a Beast Whisperer here, and then these 4. And this is our Gruul Monsters deck. See how well it does here. I'm not certain. I have again, I've looked through the cube. I'm pretty sure the more colors your deck is, the more powerful it's going to be in general, but you do have to spend a lot of picks taking non-basic lands and mana rocks and stuff to make those decks work. I think your best option, if you're not going to be 3 or more colors, is going to be going for as aggressive of a strategy as possible. That way, if your opponent stumbles on their mana at all in the early game, if they just don't have anything set up, then you can really just go under them with an aggressive strategy. So we'll see how well it works out here. I don't think this is as aggressive of a deck as you could draft in this format. Our curve isn't insane. We only have a few 3-mana cards. We have a lot of like 4 and 5-mana stuff, so we're kind of a slower aggressive deck, but when all things are considered for the general speed of this cube format, I think this is going to be faster than the general meta. So we will have to be trying to just kill our opponent before they start casting their big multicolored cards. Round 1 here. Our opponent starts off with a black-red Thriving Moor as the dual land. They go Mountain into Faithless Looting. They get to draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Whatever they discard should give us a little bit of information on what they're playing, as well as maybe what's left in their hand. If we see them discard a couple lands, maybe they're flooded out. And yep, that definitely gives us some information on what they're playing. They have a black-red duel out. They have a white-blue duel in the graveyard, as well as a white-blue card. So they're very likely to be 4 colors minimum. And I would not be surprised to see 5 colors, because the only color that we haven't seen is green. And green is going to be the color with the most mana fixing in general. So I feel like it's just the most likely color to see if they're playing like 4 colors. Yep, full-on 5-color deck here. As I said before, I expect a whole lot of the meta to be a lot of 5-color stuff. They do give just so many mana-fixing cards that multiple players in each draft pod can go for that. So a Letter of Acceptance here. I think I'm just going to cast Oracle of Moldiah and just keep slapping in with my my creatures here. We've got a Lotus Cobra on top. Lotus Cobra plus Crackle with Power could... plus Oracle to play 2 lands. If we get really lucky, we could do a really big Crackle with Power for an early win here, do 10 damage with it. We have to do 8 mana to do 10 damage. We have 4, 5, 6 right now. Lotus Cobra is going to give us extra, so we have 6, 7 if you count Scuttlemutt. They're at 12 here. They play nothing and pass the turn. Interesting. So I'm going to play Lotus Cobra. I should have attacked first in case they have like a board wipe here. But I think I'm going to attack all. I do like getting the Lotus Cobra out with the Crackle with Power in hand. So I will do that. Shark Typhoon. So they're going to trade that Shark off probably for the Oracle of Moldiah, I would expect. Okay, so I'm going to hold on to this mountain so I know that Lotus Cobra goes off with a 10 damage Crackle with Power next turn. Right now, we can spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I play this land right now, we'll have 6 lands and 1 Scuttlemutt. That's 7 mana next turn. We need 8 for the Crackle with Power. So if we play this next turn, Lotus Cobra gives us that 8th mana. So we just hold it for next turn. And fingers crossed they don't kill Scuttlemutt or Lotus Cobra. We kill them with a Crackle with Power. So Saheeli's coming out here. Whenever they cast a non-creature spell, they are getting a 1/1 servo. They do have Cut to kill Scuttlemutt. That puts us 1 mana away from Crackle with Power for lethal. So now we can Fauna Shaman discard Jadelight Ranger to find a red creature. So we could find Robber of the Rich to get a haste creature out here. We could also grab a green creature with Fauna Shaman, but that wouldn't help us cast something this turn. I guess we could. Because of the mountain with Lotus Cobra, we could still grab a green creature. What is our best play here? We can cast Jadelight Ranger with Lotus Cobra. 5, 6, 7 mana. 7 mana Crackle's not going to do it. I think the best play... Well... No, we're going to go for this play. We're going to go for this play. I don't know which is right. I'm going to play a Jadelight Ranger. That's what I'm doing here. We'll go for that, that kill next turn. Get those things in the grave. If I attack with Lotus Cobra, I guarantee that I hit them for 2, but Cobra's going to trade for the 1/1. They're going to go down to 6 life. We're just 1 mana away from the Crackle with Power, and I guess Lotus Cobra doesn't help. Does it? 4, 5, 6? Yeah, it does. It still helps. We're 2 mana away from the Crackle with Power. If we were 1 mana away, we could just play a land and then cast the Crackle, but we need to play a land with Lotus Cobra on the field. We need to get 2 mana. So I'm not going to put the Lotus Cobra under any danger there. They can aftermath their cut to ribbons to have us lose some life. We're not really worried about that. Just worried about whatever they've got in hand here. Angrath the Flame Chained. Well, there goes Lotus Cobra probably. I think Fauna Shaman's more dangerous if they don't know. Oh, okay, so they take Jade Light Ranger. Either of those is fine by me, because that leaves us to just one land away from winning still, thanks to Lotus Cobra's landfall effect. But Angrath gets to steal that creature and then sacrifice it at the end step, so Jade Light Ranger is just dead here. And there's the land. So we will go ahead and crackle where X equals 2. 10 to the face and 10 to Angrath. All right. So the reason that I ended up deciding that I thought Jade Light Ranger was the better play last turn was Jade Light Ranger all but guarantees that we get to hit that land for the Crackle with power. Jade Light Ranger explores twice, so if it's a land on top, we immediately draw it to hand. If it's not a land, we get to throw it in our graveyard. The alternative play I was thinking about was discarding the Jade Light Ranger for the Robber of the Rich, which would have been a pretty good aggressive play, because they had such a huge hand that Robber of the Rich's ability to draw cards from our opponent's deck would keep activating, because it only does if our opponent has more cards than we do. So that would have been a pretty nice play too. I'm still not sure which is better, but the Jade Light Ranger did pan out for us, did help us hit that land we needed for the final Crackle. All right, we're going first. We have Robber of the Rich turn 2. We got a Cavalier in the end game. Let's do this. We have Inscription of Abundance as well to get something out of the way. Our opponent starts with Ketria Triome. So that is a tricolored land. Green, blue, and red. And a Velomachus Lorehold from our opponent. So green, blue, red, white, and there's the black mana from the swamp. Another 5-color deck. Mire Triton coming out here. Mire Triton definitely seems like it's going to be a very good blocker here. Gains them some life and then trades off with anything I send in. Inscription of Abundance can make my Robber of the Rich a 4/4, or it can make it fight the Mire Triton. Neither of those are good for me because the Mire Triton has Death Touch. No matter what, the Robber is still just going to trade in with that. I think we still just attack, though. Get that out of the way for our bigger creatures later. Because we are not going to have the mana to cast their Velomachus that we exiled anytime soon anyway. And we are going to have bigger creatures that we want to attack in that can't if they have a Death Toucher. Path to the World Tree from our opponent. They grab a basic land with this, and once they have all 5 colors of mana, they can do 2 damage, gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, have me lose 2 life, and create a 2/2 bear. Basically, a lot of stuff. This card was exceptional in Call Time Limited, and it's probably still pretty good in the cube because you do get that mana fixing off of it, and eventually not as impactful as it would have been in Call Time, but still a pretty impactful sack trigger. And here's our 4th mana. We'll drop down the Oracle of Moldiah to start ramping out more lands. Lotus Cobra on top should give us a boatload of mana if Oracle of Moldiah remains. And again, this Myriad Construct is going to be really good in this matchup if we make it 2/7 mana. We do need to kick it to give it a +1/+1 counter for each non-basic our opponents control. Right now that's 2, so it'd be a 6/6 for 7 right now. We have to discard a card. I kind of want to discard this land. Like, Lotus Cobra makes me not love doing that, but we already have 5 lands out. I guess we really need the land with Lotus Cobra to cast this Cavalier anytime. Is Inscription ever going to work out for us? Maybe we discard Inscription here. Although Cavalier is definitely an option too, because we are pretty far away from triple red. Lotus Cobra gets us there if we hit a mountain, but because Oracle of Muldaya is dying here, we don't get to like dig for lands super quickly. I'm actually going to discard this Cavalier. We are really far from casting it. Four, 5, 6 mana. I think I just play Lotus Cobra. Next turn I can play land, and then that will landfall give me a mana, plus I'll have 6 mana out, so 6 plus 1, that'll be 7. I can kick the Myriad Construct next turn. And that'll be a 7/7 now. They have 3 non-basics. Freet Flame Painter is the play, a 1/4 double strike. We can kill that with an Inscription of Abundance eventually. But I'm not going to take the turn off to do that here. I guess if it hits us, they get to recast a Kolaghan's Command, which is not great for us. But hopefully we can just block with Myriad Construct. We could Shatter Skull Smashing for 4 here if I play this Forest and then make Lotus Cobra make a red mana. If I just want to kill that. I think I'm just going to go for the big play here. Make a big old Myriad Construct. Even if they kill it with a spell, its ability will happen and we'll get a number of 1/1s equal to its power. If they kill it with an ability, we're not going to have a good blocker here. But if they kill it with a spell, we'll have 7 1/1s. And we'll still be fine. Definitely don't love our position here. We're down to just a couple cards. Our opponent's still got 4 to play around with, as well as the Path to the World Tree, essentially being another card in hand here. A big 7 mana Cruel Ultimatum style ability. I think Kolaghan's Command for the 2-for-1 is always pretty spicy. Enter the God Eternals for another 2-for-1. Kill Lotus Cobra, get a 4/4. Alright, well, we have another red for Shatter Skull Smashing. If X is 6 or more, it deals twice X damage. So X is going to be 5 right now, so we're 1 mana away from being able to Shatter Skull Smashing to kill both of those. I guess we could Inscription of Abundance. No, because it'll be the target of a spell. When it becomes the target of a spell, sacrifice it, create a bunch of 1/1s. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Yeah, Myriad does not work with Inscription. I could kill one of their blockers with Shatter Skull Smashing if I don't wait on it. I can also just attack in here, but then the Flame Painter's going to hit me and they're going to cast Enter the God Eternals and Mire Triton. They could also Chainer's Edict me, and they make me sacrifice a creature without targeting the construct. And by Chainer's Edicting me, I also lose the construct without getting any 1/1s. Wow, yeah, this is not great. I'm probably going to have to Inscription of Abundance my own Myriad construct here. Because, like, I just don't attack here. Because I could attack just to hit them for 7, but I think I'd rather not attack because it might get them to spend all their mana to Chainer's Edict me. And yeah, if they Chainer's Edict me, I need to have a blocker for this Flame Painter, otherwise they're just going to do disastrous things. So just in order to get a blocker, I'll target my Myriad Construct. It only makes the 1/1s if it's being sacrificed as part of its own trigger. Search for Blex is the play. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal any number of them. Put any number into the hand and the rest into the grave. Lose 3 life for each card put into hand. Okay. So just a big draw spell here. We'll see what they're drawing. Apparently some good stuff there going to time here. Oh, they don't have to reveal them. So they drew 2 cards. Right? Maybe 3. Midnight Reaper. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, it deals 1 damage to you, and you draw a card. They're just going to pass the turn here. Alright, no Efreet Flame Painter attacks it is. There we go. There's the full 6 for Shatter Skull Smashing. So if X is 6 or more, deals twice X damage divided among 2 targets. So we can kill Flame Painter and Midnight Reaper here. However, now we have no mana up to trigger our Myriad Construct if they want to Chainer's Edict us next turn. But I think that's just the thing I'm going to have to deal with. Okay, there we go. I didn't know if it doubled it after you chose, or if it just doubles what X is. It looks like it doubles what X is. So they're down to 13 here, so taking 7 would actually be a big hit. Wouldn't be surprised to see the chump block, and that is what occurs. Chainer's Edicting the Myriad Construct's probably going to look pretty enticing here. Oh, but they do draw the ability-based removal, which is pretty bad for me. Now the Construct does not get any 1/1s. And a Cold Steel Heart for my opponent. I agree, Arena, that was pretty cold. So let's drop Captivating Crew, I suppose. We're going to have to get them to use this Chainer's Edict eventually. I can't just play around it forever. Any creature I draw is going to be important to keep on the board. So I'm not going to sit here and wait for potentially a weaker creature than the Captivating Crew. Just going to get it out here. Yep, that is what I expected. Inscription, oops. Inscription doesn't help me at all here, right? Fight, gain life, or get counters. Nope. Kiora. If we do draw a creature, we're going to draw more cards now. Elspeth Conquers Death gets whatever the best creature is. Probably Gyruda, Doom of Depths here, because then they return more creatures. Yeah, that could be pretty explosive here. All right, here we go. Get ready for the explosive plays the Chromatic Cube offers. Oh my god, they hit nothing. They hit 4 non-creatures, and in my deck they hit 2 odd-maned creatures, because we did build slightly around the Obosh. Oh, return any number of permanents with different types from your graveyard to the battlefield. They get a land, a creature, an enchantment. Oh, Elspeth is going to conquer Kiora here. Alright, well, their first explosive play didn't pan out, but here comes an Eerie Ultimatum. And this one is just a guaranteed good time for our opponent here.
Back to the depths.
Alright, so they just bring all the stuff back. I don't know why I read that as different card types. It's just different names. So it just brings everything back. Oh, they're down to 6 cards in their library. That's why they didn't bring back the Mire Triton there. Wow, they've drawn a ton of cards. Really just swimming in value here. We can crackle with power for 10 damage. actually so much closer than I thought this game was going to be. I thought we were not getting anywhere here, but now we put them down to 3. Is there any way we can get them to mill out before they kill us? Ooh, Midnight Reaper. We can actually hit them for 11 here because Midnight Reaper is going to deal an extra damage to them. And they'll draw a card off of it. I guess they do have Path to the World tree, but they draw cards off of that too. So I guess we kill their 7/7? No, kill a Freet Flame Painter because they'll gain life off Enter the God Eternals and stuff. Can't let them recast stuff from grave here. So kill a Freet Flame Painter and then deal 10 to them, I suppose. I mean, do we have any other burn in this deck? I don't think we have any other direct damage burns, so it might not matter. Ah, that's rough. Crackle's actually so close. Put them to 2 life. Seven, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16. Yeah, they take 2 attacks to hit me, so might as well. Two attacks to kill me. Maybe they'll tap out and we'll draw Urabrask and just slam in for 4. But I wouldn't be surprised to see lethal damage here somehow. Alright, we're at 4 life. Or does that do any target? Okay, target creature, that's what I thought. So it spreads it around. Shimmerdrift Veil is not going to do it for us, so that is going to end this game. 1-1 it is. Heading to the next round here. That deck that we played against there, that was what I feel like this cube format's gonna be a lot of. Just consistent 5-color decks that can just slam down ultimatums in the late game. All right, turn 2 Robber the Rich again. We've got the inscription. No green mana, though. But the inscription is the only thing we can't cast, and it was useless all last game anyway, for the most part. Probably had a couple opportunities to cast it earlier in the game, but never would have made a big impact. I suppose we did get our opponent down to 2 life, so if we had just inscriptioned for 2 +1/+1 counters on something, at some point when we hit him, we might have got there. We got Urabrask to top off the curve this time around. Ooh, Bone Crusher Giant from my opponent's deck. They may also be somewhat aggressive here. But Bone Crusher Giant's also just an excellent card. A removal spell and a 4/3 creature all in one. Big enough to easily trade for 2 of your opponent's cards. 2 damage killing one of their small creatures, and then the 4 damage killing a bigger one, even if you're on a defensive strategy. Alright, red, green, and blue. Sheltered Thicket into Island here. And a Dryad Greenseeker coming on out. Well, I like attacking in here, and then I can Bone Crusher that Greenseeker if it blocks. If it does not block, I can just cast a 4/3 Bone Crusher here. Alright, no blocks it is. Come on down, Bone Crusher Giant. And the first I ruin games, creating a 1/1. Next turn, putting 3 counters onto something. Then drawing 2 cards if they control a creature with power 4 or greater, and finishing off with creating a gold token at the end. So I do need to cast a card pre-combat if I want to draw off of the Robber of the Rich. So I think maybe I just go for an inscription here. Kill that Dryad right now. Or we can just play a 4/4 Myriad Construct, but if we play a Myriad Construct or a Captivating Crew, I can't attack in with the Robber of the Rich because they can double block with 2 1-power creatures to kill it. So I'll trade my Robber for their 1/1, and that seems bad. And I do want to keep attacking with the Robber because they seem like a deck that's going to have some cards I would actually like to cast for pretty cheap. So, you know, I guess I will be casting Captivating Crew and then just not attacking with the Robber here, unfortunately. I suppose I could just hold it for main phase 2 if I'm not attacking with Robber. But I actually like Inscription of Abundance enough here because it seems like probably a creature-based matchup that I don't think it's worth sending that in pre-combat just to send in with the Robber. And getting another 4/3 on the board seems pretty good, especially when it has a great effect against other creature decks. Dryad Greenseeker is now a 4/6. Getting it nice and juicy. If they have any removal, looks like Captivating Crew will be dying here. They are eyeing it pretty severely. If they don't have removal, we do get to steal that Dryad and just slam in for 14 damage. Ooh. Do I like that? I think I like that. Yeah, they can tap the Dryad in response, but it untaps it when it comes to our field. Could also just drop an Urabrask here, but then we can't attack in on a 4/6 well. Yeah, our only real way to just chip in for damage here is to steal that thing, so I think we go for it. They do draw land off of it. Will they be bouncing it to their hand or something here with their blue mana? No, not yet at least. Are we hitting for 14 damage, putting them down to 2? Looks like we are, and we draw a Growth Spiral off of Robber of the Rich. Well, I suppose we don't know yet. They have one last opportunity. All right, down to 2 life it is. Again, we're in a really good position here. All we need to do is hit them with one of our creatures. This Mazemind Tome is not going to gain them life fast enough to get them above 2. They don't gain that life till there are 4 counters on it. We have Captivating Crew to steal a blocker, so they have to deal with Captivating Crew and get another blocker on the board. They have to just eliminate this entirely and have 2 blockers for our 2 creatures. And what they don't know is they even need 3 because Urabrask is going to come out with haste. So unless they have a way to have 3 blockers and kill Captivating Crew, it's looking pretty good for us. There are some other things that could work out if they have some kind of Wrath effect that also gains life, but I don't think there's any of that. Yeah, and there's the concession from our opponent. Just a great start with that Robber of the Rich taking the Bone Crusher Giant for the Robber of the Rich into Bone Crusher Giant curve. Now you see a lot in standard mono red. Two mana 2/2 haste into 3 mana 4/3 is a heck of a way to start a game. We draw that Robber of the Rich again. This time we also have all of our 2 colors, and we have Lotus Cobra for another early play, giving us landfall as well for Crackle with Power to maybe come out a little sooner. I think I will be keeping this one. I do think that we probably could have been in a more powerful multicolored deck in general. But I think the one choice that I'm going to stick by for the draft was slamming down that Robber of the Rich. This card has performed exceptionally. But that is to be expected. It is a very powerful card. We see a Regal Caracol from our opponent. The Evolving Wilds for a white mana, so we don't know what they're playing yet. White-green so far. Conclave Mentor to start things off. Maybe just a pretty fast, pretty standard creature deck as well from our opponent. We're going to need 5 mana to cast this Regal Caracol. And we're going to need to be able to get Robber of the Rich in without it dying. So that's not likely to happen that soon. Do I want to play Lotus Cobra or do I want to play Fauna Shaman? If I play Lotus Cobra, the next turn I'll have 5 mana to do a Crackle with Power, get Conclave Mentor out of the way. Or cast a Regal Caracol, either of those things. Actually, I forgot how good Lotus Cobra is. I've never played with this card before, and it is showing a little bit. I've probably made some mistakes with it already in this video. But yeah, you can just have 4 mana this turn as well, and cast both of these, and just have a swell time doing that. Oran Reef Ooze from our opponent. Comes into play as a 4/4 because of the Conclave Mentor doubling the +1/+1 counters they have. One of the things I don't love about the Arena Cubes is that green-white has been +1/+1 counters in almost every cube, and I feel like it hasn't panned out super well anytime. But this is a great start for the +1/+1 counter deck here, getting the 4/4 out here. I don't think I should have played this land right now. Again, having some issues with the Lotus Cobra. I am not super good at it. So we could grab a 4 mana creature instead of this Myriad Construct. We could grab Vizier, Oracle Moldiah, Captivating Crew. Kind of like doing that. I don't really want to Crackle with Power until I can like 2-for-1 them at least. And I think Oracle Moldiah plus Lotus Cobra seems like a really potentially explosive lineup. We have an Inscription of Abundance on top. Alright, that's pretty good. I think I'm going to hold on to this land. I suppose if we hit 2 lands after Inscription of Abundance, then we'd want this land out right now. But if I play 2 more lands next turn, that'd be 5-6 mana on board plus 2 mana from Cobra. That'd be 8 for Crackle with Power, which is what we need to do 10 damage to 2 things. So I think I can hold on to this land, and if I just hit a single land after the Inscription of Abundance, then we can just double land next turn. The first Iron Games, alright, nice, doesn't kill any of my stuff. That's the only thing I'm worried about here, as long as I get to keep being uninteractive. I'm happy. There we go, both lands off the top here to Crackle in for 2 damage. Could wait on the Crackle still, because we do have Lotus Cobra and the Oracle. But I kind of like putting them down to 8, just because it's fun. Yeah, I could Inscription here instead, I suppose. 2 counters on a creature, have it fight that Conclave Mentor off the board, but then we still have to deal with the Oran Reef Ooze, so we don't really attack in this turn. I guess we have 8 mana to Crackle next turn as well, because we have 6 out now, the 7th from the Forest and the 8th from Lotus Cobra. So we could just Inscription to clear out Conclave Mentor this turn. Okay, sorry, I was just trying to make sure I did that all right. Yeah, if we want to Crackle with Power, kill Oran Reef Ooze and do 10 to them, we can also do that next turn. Because we've got the land in hand for Lotus Cobra guaranteed. And this way, maybe we get extra lucky and we hit 2 more lands on top, and then we get to Crackle with Power onto 3 targets. God Eternal Oketra can be pretty explosive whenever they cast creature spells. They're spitting out a 4/4 now. And we're not going to have a way to kill that because it does go back into their library. Third from the top. So I suppose I could Spit Flame to kill Oran Reef Ooze. I could Crackle with Power to kill God Eternal Oketra. And do 10 to them, or Crackle with Power to kill God Eternal Oketra and Oran Reef Ooze. We just can't ever get this attack off with the Robber of the Rich to get the Regal Caracol. I'm gonna go for the Crackle here, I think. Because we have a Scuttlemutt coming next turn. I guess Scuttlemutt with Fauna Shaman gives us another shuffle, maybe hit 2 lands that way. No, just kill the Ooze. This God Eternal Oketra could really start controlling things here, though. Just creating a bunch of 4/4s to block with for our opponent. But if the game goes long enough, we could also just Crackle with Power for 20 damage. Probably get rid of Oracle of Moldiah here. And that looks like the choice, but I think Fauna Shaman is going to be equally good for us now. Attack in with a 4/4. No walks. Fauna Shaman immediately, because Scuttlemutt is no good here. I do like Cavalier of Thorns, grabbing us a land, giving us a big blocker. It's looking like our best chance probably would have been to just bite the bullet and do the Crackle last turn to get the God Eternal Oketra from going off this turn, because, yeah, the number of 4/4s they're going to have here is just insurmountable. They already have 2 of them, plus the ones that they established beforehand. So what is our best way to get out of this now? I think our only real way is going to be actually Crackling with Power to hit them for 20, which we're going to need X to equal 4. So we need 14 mana. We have 1, 2, plus 5. We have 7. We need to like double our mana somehow. I think Cavalier of Thorns is the closest we get there. Captivating Crew, we could steal 2 things with that. That might be good. Yeah. I'm gonna grab the Captivating Crew here, and it looks like I am playing too slowly. Just playing a lot of complex cards definitely in this cube. Alright, get that Captivating Crew out now and pass the turn. And Arena is glitching up. All our stuff is now just highlighted. Okay, well, that makes things nice and simple. And Ray's Forerunners just slams us for lethal. Negative 20 there with only 8 toughness, I think, to block with. So we could have went to negative 12 if I slammed all the blocks down, but kind of happy to just close that one out. I think that game was definitely lost once the God Eternal Oketra started going off. Should have bit the bullet and just got it off the board immediately with my Crackle with Power. Just really didn't like doing that because we could maybe get the 3-for-1 with Crackle with Power, and the fact that God Eternal Oketra just comes right back anyway. Like, they're just going to slam it down. They're just going to slam it right back down because of its effect to go back into the library. But I think it was our best chance there. And I should have bitten the bullet. Just taken my medicine there and did the play that I didn't love doing, just to make sure that that we could do things in the future. I could play a Magda here so that I know I can cast Oracle next turn, because Magda gives me a treasure token. Shatterskull Smashing comes out as an untapped land. But I could also just Robber of the Rich and then play Shatterskull Smashing tapped. and Magda next turn, which is also fine. But Magda maybe leads into like a Verdurous Gear Hulk coming down prematurely, which can always be insane. They have 6 cards in hand, we have 5, so we can attack before I do anything in case they have a really good 2-mana or less card. Just a land that we've hit. So now we'll play Magda. We have our 4 mana next turn for Oracle Moldiah, or if we attack with Magda, we could have 5 mana off the treasure token. Agonizing Remorse here is going to get rid of the Oracle probably, maybe the Gear Hulk. If they get rid of the Oracle, we'll cast the Gear Hulk. If they get rid of the Gear Hulk, we'll cast the Oracle. Obosh doesn't do much here, so I would not expect them to take Obosh. Okay, they take the Oracle, so we'll be casting a Gear Hulk. Probably spreading those counters around to get real aggressive. And our opponent's on black and green here. They're down to 15 already. They're going to take 4 more, go to 11. This is a pretty great start to this game. Make sure all our creatures are 4 power here, I think. Spread our threats out equally. They're at 11. Obosh is going to double the damage Verdurous Gear Hulk will deal if they can't kill the Gear Hulk. They choose to kill the Robber of the Rich, probably. They know we have Obosh coming, so I think Gear Hulk might be the best choice. Oh, they choose the Magda. Interesting. Alright, well, let's just slam down the Obosh so we get that double damage off the Gear Hulk here, rather than being able to cast something off Robber of the Rich, because we're just hitting lands off it anyway. Alright, well, that's 8 damage instead of 4 thanks to Obosh, so they're down to 3 now. Can they make it out of here? They do draw a mountain now, so green, black, and red. Natural Jund here. Liliana, Death's Majesty, I don't believe will be enough. They get 1 zombie or return a creature. They return a Chupacabra that's 1 blocker and they kill a creature, but 1 blocker against multiple 4-power creatures means we will be getting 4 damage in. That'll close that one out. 3 and 2. So, 50-50 win rate, no matter what happens here in our first Chromatic Cube draft. And it is definitely nice to play a more basic strategy when you're learning the ropes of a new cube like this, rather than just diving in head first into the 5-color decks. We've just got green-red beats, the kind of deck you could play in a lot of cubes. Kind of like the best way to like start Modern or Pauper or Legacy is to just grab a mono red deck and just watch your opponents play the more complex decks for a little bit before you really dive in deep into those. I feel like I'm kind of doing the draft equivalent to that here. However, our opponents on mono green so far, they just go for green source, green source. Of course, they do have a black land in their deck. They just chose to play it as a green source there. I like Magda as the first creature I play because they give us treasure tokens for casting the rest of them. So next turn I could cast both of these 2-mana creatures. Alright, I was going to be really excited if they just kept playing green sources. Okay, now I'm very unexcited. Now I think I'm just going to get absolutely hammered here, because Dryad of the Elysian Grove seems fantastic in this cube. A 2/4 body to block the more aggressive decks, as well as the Oracle Moldiah effect to double your land drops, and the Chromatic Sphere effect to make all of your lands be every basic land type, so your mana is just perfect. So next turn, if they play 1 more land, they just have Wooburg. They have white, blue, black, red, and green mana for cards like Visit Reborn, Golos, anything scary like that. Obviously can't attack in against the 2/4 with my 2/1, so we'll just play our Jade Light Ranger. This is a pretty terrifying start to see the Dryad here. And there they go. It's 5 mana. Whatever colors they need, and Gigantha coming out. Gigantha as well taps for white, blue, black, red, and green. However, Gigantha's mana can only be spent to to be used on colored costs. Like you can't, generic costs are like the 4 here or the 1 here on Magda. You have to use it as the colored mana symbol specifically. So Giganta doesn't ramp as much as it looks like they do, but Giganta still ramps up a lot. So I think I'm gonna Domri here. I'm just gonna go ahead and get this Dryad off the board and then attack with my Jade Light Ranger. And if they kill Domri, that's fine. I just want to get in some damage or trade with Giganta. Domri's kind of accomplished the best they can do. They do buff the board with +1/+0, I suppose. But I don't think it's worth chump blocking with a Magda to save Domri here. Domri got us good value just killing that Dryad, making sure that their mana isn't completely perfect here. They do have a creature in their graveyard now for our Scavenging Ooze as well, so this can be a little bigger than just a 2/2 here, which is nice. Going into the think tank here. 4 cards in hand. They have at least 1 of every color thanks to Giganta. They have 2 of every color except for white, because they don't have any white lands, but they do have Giganta producing a white mana. Selvala, Heart of the Wilds is the play. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. So if you play the biggest creature, you get to draw a card, and Selvala also manafixes a lot off of her effect. So yeah, seems pretty good in general. I think we'll be attacking with Jade Light Ranger here. We're definitely fine with the trade with Giganta. If they don't trade, we put them down to 10, and if they do, we can just play a Scavenging Ooze afterward and start gaining some life and making that really big here. So that seems pretty good. Magda does not seem like a great attack, though. Alright, put him down to 10 off of that. Go ahead and +1 Domri, so at the very least, next turn he'll be able to fight with our creatures again. But I think I will be playing this Scavenging Ooze because it's at least a 3/3 here. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we're supposed to hold it for Fauna Shaman. I don't think so. They're down to 10 and they have 2 creatures out, although Selvala could be ramping up into something disastrous. Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to hold on to Scavenging Ooze here, but it's possible. Just the ability to grab literally any creature out of your deck is very good with Fauna Shaman. We've definitely got the mana to cast any creature in our deck that we dig for. We have the triple green for the Green Cavalier. We have the triple red for the Red Cavalier. Domri helps on that front as well, adding red or green. So I don't know, maybe rather than just go wide, we go for targeted best creatures possible with Fauna Shaman. Definitely if I draw any creatures like worse than Scavenging Ooze, like Scuttlemutt and stuff, I'm just going to slam Fauna Shaman's ability down, get that into the graveyard, and grab something better. Verdurous Gearhulk would be fantastic here, something like that. Crackle with Power. Doing 15 damage to these 3. Alright, well, at least it didn't hit my face, and they're tapped out, so we get to hit them with Magda for 7. Alright, go ahead and gain the life off Scavenging Ooze while we can, but looks like these are all out of here. Lotus Cobra is the draw. Just attack with Magda, cast the Lotus Cobra, I suppose. Just in case they have Pact of Negation, which I don't think is in this cube, but might as well get the most of that mana Domri gives us, because I'm not going to be fighting anything here. If we draw our own Crackle with power, that'd be a pretty funny comeback. Crackle versus Crackle. But I do think that's probably our best draw here, because it would be immediately lethal if we can get the 8 mana for it, so as long as Lotus Cobra is still around. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of hard to break through this field. A 5/5 and a 3/4 against a couple 3/1s. If they tap out, we do get to crack back here. We're fine with Domri dying. I guess we only crack back for 2 damage. Ooh! Alright, well. Sometimes you get very lucky. Sometimes you get exactly what the doctor ordered. Crackle into reverse Crackle on our opponent. Wow, that was probably the luckiest game of this video for sure. 4-2 we are. Very nice. I think at 4 wins in cube draft formats, you get 3,000 gold back. It does cost 4,000 to play. So definitely not costing us too much to play this draft here. Very nice. And I believe the next win is when we break even, if we can make it to 5 wins. Alright, well there's Crackle with power. Arguably the MVP. It just gives us that extra reach after our opponents stabilize to have a way to just dome them for 10 after all our early aggression gets halted by whatever Wrath or multiple blockers they set up. That card has been very, very good, so I'm happy to keep a hand with it here. And we have a good start too. Wildborn Preserver coming out, maybe getting some counters later in this game. We could play this on turn 2, and then if we play Fauna Shaman on turn 3, this will be a 3/3 when it attacks, which should be nice. So at minimum, if we play Wildborn Preserver first, then it'll have 1 extra counter on it. Now it depends on what we draw here. If I don't draw an untapped mana, I'll probably just play the Fauna Shaman next turn and not put a counter on Preserver, so I can get this out so I know I have all 4 mana untapped on turn 4 for Captivating Crew. Looks like our opponent is also on red-green so far. A Sheltered Thicket and a Forest is what we see from them. My apologies if you can hear the rain. It is slamming down right now. It's actually pretty cozy, but I am mildly worried about the potential for an internet disconnect here. Other than that, it's nice, it's fine. Speak of the devil, we see... Okay, I was going to say, we see a rope here. This could be my arena disconnecting, because it doesn't always tell you. Luckily, it is just our opponent, just taking some time to think there. Alright, let's flash out our Preserver. And... Lotus Cobra. Oh. Now I... that changes the math so much. Because I was like, alright, if we draw an untapped land, then we Fauna Shaman untap land. Well, untap land, then play Fauna Shaman, so this is a 3/3 when it attacks. But now that we draw Lotus Cobra, I could just slam both of these down. And I think I'm going to roll with that. I think I'm going to slam both these down, because then next turn, even if I play a tapped land next turn, I can still cast Captivating Crew. And if I don't play a tapped land next turn, I can cast a Verdurous Gear Hulk if I get lucky and top deck a basic. So we play... I guess we do it post-combat, because we're not going to have the extra mana to put any counters on the Preserver anyway. Now we play our Cobra, so we play our Mountain for green here. Off of Lotus Cobra, and then tap the Mountain for Fauna Shaman. Man, Lotus Cobra has been pretty exceptional as well. And the first Iron Games has gone off. That 1/1 is a 4/4 now. It'll draw some cards next turn. It's kind of interesting. I think the only decks that I've seen that haven't been incredibly multicolored have been mainly green-red in this draft video here. Some mirror matches. I suppose we saw like green-white one time, but I think they ended up playing more colors. Okay, we do draw an untapped land, so we could just slam down a Verder's Gearhulk. Yeah, that actually, that seems pretty groovy to me. Although I could Shatter Skull Smashing later in this game to clear stuff out of the way. I have the Crackle with Power as well, potentially doing that. Although Crackle's probably the win condition again, as it tends to be. Pay 3 life. We're going to add green, so we have double green for Gearhulk. We're going to cast the Gearhulk right now so that we have the counters on our creatures to attack in. Our stuff needs to be at least 4 power, so if I spread it on these two, Lotus Cobra dying wouldn't be awesome, because then Crackle with Power wouldn't be as good later, but it's probably worth the attack in, because if they trade their 4/4 into one of my creatures here, then they won't be drawing 2 cards next turn, and they will take 4 damage. They'll be down to 14, so maybe just a 5 damage Crackle with Power eventually would be good enough. Yeah, I think I'm going to attack him with the Lotus Cobra here. Because we have Shimmerdrift Veil here, so if this game goes late, if Lotus Cobra does die, we have at least enough to where Crackle with Power will be castable. We can do just the 5 damage with it. Unfortunately, we do see a Fire Prophecy from our opponent, dealing 3 damage to the Preserver and drawing a card. Well, at least Lotus Cobra gets in. They're going to have to think pretty hard about if they want to trade here. I'm fine either way, but I would prefer the damage to go through. I think that would be best for me, although drawing 2 cards is probably best for them as well, so it's kind of an equal trade there. Either way around. We're both a little sad or we're both a little happy. Oh, easy no blocks here. With the Crackle with Power in hand, I'm very much trying to find lethal. Alright. I was suspicious of something like that. Alright, well, Shimmerdrift Veil for green, and now we get a Captivating Crew on the board. I was going to say, the only way that attack really makes sense is if they're probably going to kill multiple of my creatures. Some way or other. If they don't kill this Captivating Crew, if they just respond by playing a creature of their own, we can slap them with it, which is always fun. Use your opponent's creatures against them. Although, of course, that kind of thing is always fun to play and very irritating to play against. Like Thief of Sanity and whatever you call it. Well, Kogla comes in, fights that 4/3 off the map here. We have 6 mana now. We need 8 mana to Crackle with Power for 10. We can only Crackle for 5 right now, so we can't kill the ape. We just played Jade Light Ranger. Probably the kind of thing where the next couple decisions this game are going to be just the only decisions available. And it's looking like we might be getting slammed here. Uh-oh, Combustible Gearhulk. Have opponent targeting you draw 3 cards, yes. I'm going to allow them to draw their 3 cards, because otherwise, if they go to the grave, I take damage equal to their mana costs. That could easily put me to 1 shot from Kogla being lethal. So I'm just going to let them draw the cards. They already have more cards than I do. They're winning on the card advantage front. We're just trying to make it to 8 mana and find 4 more damage to our opponent somehow, hopefully. Try to get really lucky at the end here. But we may be getting crushed by the mirror match here. Bone Crusher Giant gets Jade Light Ranger out of the way, so Kogla hits for 7. Definitely very happy that I just let them draw off the Gearhulk, although Bone Crusher could have been one of those draws. And that is lethal on board, just another land over here. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. Can't even Crackle for 10 here. We can only Crackle for 5. Let me double check, just make sure. Alright, yeah, I can't afford that. We'll do all I can. Put them down to 9. And that will end this draft. So 4 and 3 in today's Chromatic Cube draft. My first Chromatic Cube draft all together. Definitely a solid deck here. Not incredible. There are definitely some pretty filler cards. Myriad Construct did not perform nearly as well as I had hoped it would. Ended up being just a ton of mana, and there were a lot of ways people were dealing with it where they didn't even have to give me all of the 1/1s. So I'd put that in the underperformer pile for the day. But in terms of the overperformers, the best cards, Lotus Cobra, that is pretty much my first time playing around with Lotus Cobra there. That card was pretty absurd, allowing us to drop two drops on turn 3 multiple times. That was always great. It always helped us cast that Crackle with Power for even more damage, which was exceptional. Crackle with Power, I would say, another overperformer here. These might be the 2 top cards, in my opinion, for today's draft. Lotus Cobra and Crackle with Power, both of those doing a ton. But Robber of the Rich also doing a lot, but a card I've played with a ton, just playing mono red all the time. So I'm already very familiar with how good Robber of the Rich can be, but that card was also pretty great. Yeah, overall, pretty fun deck here. Just a classic green-red monsters thing. As I was kind of saying in the middle of that draft there, definitely was nice to play somewhat of a simple strategy here while I just kind of looked around, saw what everybody was doing, kind of looking around the Pro Tour as a casual player, that kind of thing. That kind of analogy. But yeah, pretty fun draft format. Very excited to hop back into it and see what else is possible in the format. And 4-3, not bad at all. 3,000 gold and 3 random card rewards here. Not a bad way to end the draft altogether. So, as always, if you enjoyed that draft and you want to see more of these videos, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all those good things that let the YouTube algorithm know that you are enjoying them and you'd like to see more. And, yeah, I will see you all again very soon for some more Magic Arena. Thank you.